His lips were soft, demanding, and it was everything I had ever wanted without even knowing it. I remember the first time I met him. It was a strange, awkward day, the kind that sets the tone for years of uneasy family gatherings. He was nothing like I imagined. I had envisioned a boy who would be distant, cold, a stranger thrust into my life by my mother's new marriage. But instead, he was, well, different. He was quiet, a little shy, but there was something in the way he looked at me that made me feel like we were already connected, even if we hadn't spoken a word to each other yet. It didn't take long for us to settle into a routine. Our parents were happily married, which meant weekends spent at each other's houses, holidays spent with new, unfamiliar faces, and through it all, we coexisted. As kids, we played together, fought like siblings do, and built a kind of familiarity, if not a closeness, between us. We were family after all, even if it was just by a technicality. But as we grew older, the dynamic shifted. Things started to change in ways I couldn't explain. The subtle shifts came first. The lingering glances across a dinner table, the accidental brushes of hands when passing each other in the hallway. I told myself it was nothing, but there was an underlying current between us that neither of us could ignore. It was the summer I came home from college that everything shifted. I was back in town for a few weeks, staying at my mom's house before heading off to a job in the city. He was there too, of course, staying with his father for the weekend. And though we didn't speak much, there was a tension that hung in the air whenever we were in the same room. Every laugh felt too loud. Every look felt too long. I could feel him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking, his eyes lingering in ways that made my heart race with a mixture of confusion and desire. It was a hot evening, one of those sticky, humid nights that made it impossible to sleep. I was on the porch, sitting on the old wicker chair that had been there since I was a child. The smell of fresh-cut grass and the distant sound of crickets filled the air, a familiar comfort. And that's when he came outside. "Can't sleep either?" he asked, standing in the doorway, his silhouette outlined by the dim light from the living room. "No," I replied, my voice a little too high, a little too tight. "Just thinking." He stepped out onto the porch, his presence larger than life. I couldn't help but notice the way his shirt clung to his chest, the way his muscles rippled as he moved toward me. The awkward, shy boy I had known all those years ago had transformed into someone different. "I can't believe how much has changed," he said, sitting beside me, his leg brushing mine ever so slightly. I was too afraid to look at him, but I could feel the heat from his body, and my breath came a little too fast. "Yeah, me neither," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. There was a long pause between us, the kind where words didn't seem to matter, but the silence only made it worse, made the distance between us feel like it was closing in, tighter and tighter. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. And when I finally mustered the courage to glance at him, his eyes were on me. His gaze was so intense, so full of something I couldn't define, something that made my stomach flip. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice low, his gaze never leaving mine. "Nothing," I said, shaking my head. "Just tired." He didn't look convinced, but he didn't press the issue. Instead, he reached over, his hand brushing lightly against mine. It was a casual touch, a simple thing, but in that moment, it felt like the world had tilted sideways. His hand lingered there, just for a second, and I didn't pull away. My heart was racing, my palms sweating. I could feel the heat between us, the undeniable electricity that seemed to crackle in the air. We were no longer just a brother and sister, not even step-siblings. There was something more, something forbidden, and yet neither of us could stop what was happening. And then, before I could even think, his hand moved up to my cheek, his thumb brushing across my skin. I froze, my breath hitching in my throat, but I couldn't pull away. He was so close now, his face just inches from mine, his breath warm against my skin. And there it was, the moment where the world stopped turning. "Do you feel it too?" he whispered, his voice barely audible, the words heavy with something that made my pulse race. I nodded, though I didn't know what else to say. There was no escaping it, no pretending anymore. The tension between us had been building for years, and now it was here, consuming us both. Without another word, he leaned in. His lips brushed mine, just barely, but it was enough to send a shock of electricity through my entire body. I gasped, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he kissed me again, deeper this time, his hand moving to the back of my neck, pulling me closer. I couldn't stop myself. I didn't want to. His lips were soft, demanding, and it was everything I had ever wanted without even knowing it. My hands moved to his chest, feeling the solid, undeniable reality of him beneath my fingertips. His touch was gentle at first, but it quickly became urgent, as though both of us knew we were running out of time, running out of chances. The kiss deepened, and suddenly, it felt like nothing else existed. No family, no boundaries, no rules. It was just him and me, caught in this stolen moment, this forbidden moment, where nothing else mattered. My hands slipped under his shirt, feeling the heat of his skin, the strength of his body, and I knew, in that instant, that this would change everything. I could feel the heat of him, the roughness of his hands against my skin, the desire we both tried to ignore for so long. But just as quickly as it had begun, the moment shattered. He pulled away, his chest rising and falling with quick breaths, his eyes wild with something I couldn't name. He ran a hand through his hair, looking away. "We can't," he said, his voice strained. "This is wrong." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, my heart was pounding, and the only thing I could feel was the ache of wanting more. But I understood. This was a line we couldn't cross. Not now, not ever. For a long while, we didn't speak. We just sat there. The space between us filled with everything we couldn't say. And as I stood up to leave, I realized something. We might have walked away from this moment, but we could never walk away from what we felt. It was always going to be there, lingering in the background, in the silence that followed. It wasn't over, not for either of us, and I knew that no matter what happened, I'd never be able to forget the touch of my stepbrother's hand on my skin.